I didn't even wait for the dirt on my wife's coffin to settle before her brothers came after me, papers in one hand, a fake smile in the other, ready to tear apart whatever little future I had left. That was the moment I realized Linda hadn't just died. She'd left me standing in the middle of a war she'd prepared for and never warned me about. My name is Bruce, and if you're hearing this, then you're already inside the story I never wanted to tell, but damn well need you to understand. If you're watching this video, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you first heard about my revenge. Because trust me, I'm still trying to figure out how far the ripples of what happened at Coyote Ridge have reached, and whether any of us ever truly walk away clean. I'll tell you exactly when my life split clean down the middle, before Linda's letter and after it. Because the moment I cracked that envelope open, I realized my wife hadn't just died. She'd detonated a truth big enough to burn down whatever was left of the man I thought I was. My name's Bruce, 60 years old, union retired electrician from Ohio, and until a week ago I believed I understood the woman I slept beside for 35 years. But grief's a funny thing. It doesn't just hurt, it reveals. And sometimes what it reveals feels like being gutted with a cold blade you never saw coming. Linda had been in the ground for 4 days when my phone rang. I picked up because I thought it'd be the pastor asking if I wanted to pick up her casserole dishes from the church basement. Instead, it was her attorney. "Mr. Walker, we need you in my office today. There are items your wife left for you." Items. God. If I'd known what he meant, I might have run the truck straight off I-90 and saved myself the rest of this unraveling. His office was one of those old Cleveland buildings with wood-paneled walls and the smell of dust that's older than the people breathing it. I sat across from him, feeling like a man with no weight in his bones, hollowed out by weeks of hospital nights, funeral arrangements, and the kind of regret that chews on a man alone. "Mr. Walker," he said, after shuffling a stack of papers before we review the will, "there is something you need to understand. Your wife, she made some decisions you weren't aware of." He slid a small oak box across the table. My hands hesitated over it, because the last time someone handed me a box that carefully, it contained my father's ashes. Inside this one were 3 things: an old brass key, a USB drive, and a sealed envelope with my name written in her handwriting, steady, sharp, the way she wrote when she wasn't in pain. "Your wife repurchased her childhood ranch in New Mexico 3 years ago," the attorney said. "Coyote Ridge Ranch. It belonged to her family until it didn't." I stared at him, because nothing he said made sense. "Linda never owned land," I muttered. "Hell, she wouldn't drive past a cow pasture without cursing the smell." He folded his hands. "She bought it in secret. Used her own savings, private credit lines. The deed is now in your name." I blinked, then blinked again, because none of that belonged to the woman I knew. "And one more thing," he added, just when I thought the blows were done. "Her brothers are contesting it. They've already filed preliminary motions in Santa Fe, claiming you're not fit to manage mineral-rich land." "Mineral-rich," I choked. "Lithium," he said. "Significant deposits based on recent surveys. Worth a fight." There it was. The Moore brothers never lifted a finger in their lives unless there was money on the other end of it. I forced my fingers to tear the seal of Linda's envelope. Inside was a 3-page letter, written in the quiet, steady voice I fell in love with back when I was a 25-year-old drunk, climbing out of another mistake. "My Bruce, if you're reading this, I'm gone and I'm sorry." My breath broke in my chest. "I didn't tell you about my cancer because you would have thrown your whole life away to care for me. You always do that carry more weight than you should. I needed you to forgive yourself, not drown beside me." The words blurred. I wiped my face with the back of my wrist and I kept go the ranch. I bought it back because I wanted you to have a place that wasn't stained by our past. A place that felt like a second chance. You think you wasted years because of your drinking, because of how hard life got. But you didn't, Bruce. You kept this family alive. You gave me love when I didn't even know how to receive it. My throat tightened. Linda had rarely said things like that out loud. Before I died, I rebuilt Coyote Ridge into a home I wish we'd had from the start. Go there at least once. Walk the land. See what I made for you. Everything you need to live the rest of your life with dignity is waiting for you. And maybe you'll find pieces of me there too. Don't be afraid. Don't let my brothers steal this from you. They'll come for it. For you. I'm giving you the tools to fight back. Linda. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes. Maybe an hour. Time doesn't move right when your world gets rearranged. The attorney cleared his throat softly. There's a flight to Albuquerque leaving Cleveland tonight. I've booked you a seat per your wife's instruction. Of course she had. Linda always planned 3 steps ahead, just never for herself. I walked out of that office with the oak box, tucked under my arm, like a newborn or a bomb, I couldn't tell which. The sky outside Cleveland was ash gray, the kind that sits heavy on your back. And for the first time in years, I wanted a drink not to forget anything, but because I suddenly remembered too much. At home, I spread her letter on the kitchen table, the same place we'd eaten breakfast for 3 decades. I traced the curve of her handwriting, felt the shame of all the nights I'd failed her, and the strange heat of knowing she'd still believed in me even when I didn't. Then I unfolded the ranch map tucked beneath the key. New Mexico. Coyote Ridge. Her childhood. Her secrets. And now, somehow, my responsibility. I packed a small bag, old cargo pants, worn boots, the jacket she gave me our 25th anniversary, and drove to the airport like a man marching into something bigger than grief. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Everything you need for the rest of your life is there. But what does a man like me need? Forgiveness. A place to finally stop running. A way to make peace with a daughter who barely called me dad anymore. Or was this something else entirely? A gift wrapped in love? Or the opening move of a fight I didn't know I'd been drafted into at 11:42 p.m. Somewhere over Kansas, I held the brass key in my palm and felt the weight of it. Not metal, but memory. Regret, hope, fear. Coyote Ridge was waiting. So were her brothers. And maybe, just maybe, the last chance I'd ever get to become the man Linda always saw when she looked at me. I hit the ranch gate sometime after noon, sun burning straight through the windshield, turning the desert into one long sheet of white fire. I'd told myself not to expect much, maybe a broken windmill, a sagging barn, a house half swallowed by sand, the way Linda used to describe it. Her childhood had been a thing she rarely spoke about, and when she did, it tasted bitter in her voice. But the second I stepped out of the rental truck, the air punched the breath right out of me. Coyote Ridge wasn't dead. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't even old. It was breathtaking. Rolling fences stretching across the ridge like brushed silver. A rebuilt barn with red siding that gleamed in the sun. A 2-story ranch house with cedar beams, wraparound porch, and windows so clean they looked unreal. Fresh gravel on the driveway. Wind chimes Linda would have picked, weathered copper, soft and low, moving in the breeze like they were welcoming me home. Home. A word I hadn't felt in my mouth in years. For a minute, I just stood there, boots planted in the dust. My throat burning in that way grief sometimes burns, quiet, hot, relentless. Linda had made all this. For me. For the man who'd spent half his marriage trying to earn forgiveness. He already had. I pushed the front door open. The hinges didn't creak. Of course they didn't. Inside, the house smelled of pine clean linens and something faint, maybe sage. The great room opened wide, stone fireplace, long leather sofa, big windows looking out toward the far ridge. There were framed photos Linda had stolen from our life. Me holding Emily as a baby, the stupid fishing trip where I fell in the river, and she laughed until she couldn't breathe, the two of us dancing barefoot in the kitchen with flour all over the floor. And on the coffee table, a silver laptop, closed, perfectly centered, with a note written in Linda's neat handwriting, "Open when you are ready to hear the truth." My hands shook when I touched it. The password was easy, our wedding date, and the name of my old baseball team. It felt like a private joke between us, except I was the only one laughing now, and not in any way that felt good. When the screen lit up, a single folder sat in the middle, for Bruce. I opened it, scrolled, and my stomach dropped. 365 videos, each labeled day 1, day 2, day 3, all the way to day 365. A full year of Linda talking to me after she was gone. I clicked the first one because what else was I going to do? Walk away? Pretend she hadn't reached across life and death to hold my face in her hands one more time? The screen flickered, then settled. Linda appeared healthy, glowing hair pulled back the way she wore it before chemo took it. She smiled soft at first, then with that teasing crook of her lips that always made me feel 25 again. "Hey, old man," she said. Her voice. God. Hearing it again felt like being struck by lightning and resuscitated in the same breath. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone. And you made it to the ranch. So first, thank you. I know how hard that must have been." I sat down because my knees wouldn't hold me. "I need to explain some things," she continued. "Things I couldn't tell you while I was alive. About my illness. About why I kept this place from you for so long. About my family. And about the danger wrapped up in this land. Danger." The words slid across my skin like cold water. Linda took a slow breath. "When they diagnosed me, I didn't want you to carry the weight of watching me fade. I remembered our hardest years, Bruce. The drinking, the hollow days, the way you broke yourself trying to fix something no one but I could fix. I wasn't going to let you die slowly beside me." She looked straight into me, as if she could still see the way my heart cracked open in that room. "So I used the time I had left to build this place, to give you something good, something that didn't come from pain." Her expression shifted, then more serious, the way she looked when she locked the world out to keep me safe. "This ranch sits on top of something valuable, very valuable. Lithium, huge deposits. I learned it by accident. The companies sniffing around didn't want me to know the truth. But once I knew, I understood why my brothers suddenly cared about this land again." I stiffened. Her brothers were vipers wrapped in church clothes. All charm on Sunday, all knives on Monday. "They'll fight you for it," she said. "They'll use the courts, the sheriff, maybe even Emily if they can get to her. They've never played fair, and they won't start now. I'm sorry I'm not there to help you through what's coming, but I've prepared what I could. You're not walking into this blind." The video ended. Just like that. Cut clean, like she needed me to breathe before she dropped more truth on my shoulders. I closed the laptop and pressed my palms into my eyes, trying to hold myself together. Because everything inside me, grief, anger, fear, love, was fighting to get out at once. That's when I heard it. Gravel crunching, an engine. Slow, heavy. I moved to the window. A black SUV was rolling up the drive. Then another car behind it, white, and on the side, I saw the badge, Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office. My blood iced. I watched as the SUV doors opened and Linda's brothers stepped out. Raymond and Charles, both wearing those expensive boots and expressions that always made me feel like the poor kid marrying up. Behind them, a deputy climbed out of the sheriff's cruiser. He pulled a manila folder from under his arm. As they approached the gate, then the house, Raymond cupped his hands and yelled, "Bruce, we have a court order for a property inspection. You need to open the gate." My pulse hammered in my throat. I didn't know enough yet. I didn't know what rights I had. I didn't know what lies they'd told the judge. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity: Linda had warned me. And I wasn't letting her down. I grabbed the laptop, the brass key, the letter, and walked toward the door, heart pounding hard enough to bruise my ribs. This was it. My first test. My first stand. And I'd barely been on this land for 30 minutes. The gate groaned open like it was protesting what stood on the other side. The deputy stepped through, first young, clean-shaven hat, two big eyes, already darting around like he expected trouble. Linda's brothers waited behind him, arms crossed, boots planted like they owned not just this ranch, but the damn desert stretching behind it. I stayed where I was, a good 10 feet back from the porch. Grief had been swallowing me for weeks, but something colder, sharper slid into its place now. Maybe it was what Linda left for me. Maybe it was the ranch itself. Maybe it was just that I'd run out of ways to be afraid. "Mr. Moore," the deputy asked. "It's Mitchell," I corrected quietly. "My mother's name. Bruce Mitchell." He nodded uneasily. "Sir, I have a signed order to conduct a preliminary inspection of the property, pending a petition filed this morning in Santa Fe County." Behind him, Raymond smirked. Charles spat into the gravel. I didn't take my eyes off the deputy. "Is that a search warrant?" "No, sir," he admitted. "Just a request for access." "Then you're not searching anything today." That silence afterward was long enough to crush a weaker man. But grief had already chewed a hole clean through me. There wasn't much left to scare. The deputy cleared his throat. "Their filing alleges you may not be the lawful, competent party to manage an estate of this size." Raymond laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Open the door, Bruce. You're out of your depth here. Always were." I reached into my jacket, slow and steady, and pulled out the folder my attorney in Ohio had forced into my hands before I flew out. Deeds, transfers, notarized documents. The works. I held it out. "Before you step one foot onto Linda's land, you'll read this." The deputy flipped through the paperwork. His brow tightened. "This looks valid. Filed in 2 states. Notarized, witnessed." "It is valid," I said. "My wife bought this place legally. She left it legally. And whatever her brothers think, grief doesn't make me incompetent." Raymond's jaw tightened. Charles sneered. "Your drinking did." That one carved straight into the part of me I still hated most. I swallowed it down. Because Linda had built this place with love, not shame. And I'd be damned if I let them drag me back into a hole I'd already crawled out of once. The deputy shut the folder cleanly. "Gentlemen, I can't enter the residence without a warrant, and this is clearly a civil matter. You'll need a judge's ruling before any further action." Raymond stepped forward, heat in his voice. "Deputy, that ranch is off limits. Until a court says otherwise." The deputy cut in. For a moment, I saw the same thing in both brothers' eyes, pure entitled rage. The kind of rage born from knowing something they wanted wasn't just slipping away, but slipping into the hands of someone they considered beneath them. "You won't win this," Raymond hissed. "This land is more land," Charles added. "Mom raised Linda here. It belongs to blood." I stared at them, feeling Linda behind me, somehow steady, strong. "She chose me," I said, "and she chose this land for me." They didn't respond. Not with words. Just a long, poisonous look before turning back to their SUV. Dust rose behind them as they tore down the drive tires, spitting gravel like curses. Only when the sound faded did I exhale. I didn't realize someone had been standing a few yards away until a voice drifted out from the barn. shadows low, warm, cracked like old leather. You handled that better than I expected, senor. I turned. A man walked forward, tall, fight for his 60s, skin tanned, deep by desert sun, gray mustache neat, a bandana tucked into the collar of his worn work shirt. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who knew every nail and stone on the land. I'm Hank, he said. Hank Alvarez. Linda hired me to run things around here. His handshake was firm, grounding. She spoke of you often, he said. Said you were stubborn like an old mule, but a good man once you stopped running from yourself. The words hit harder than the insults earlier. Linda had talked about me here, with him, while dying. You knew she was sick, I asked. His eyes lowered. She told me the second time she visited, before the hair started falling, before the pain. He hesitated. She cried a lot in this kitchen. I pretended not to hear, but walls in ranch houses, they don't keep things in. I swallowed hard. Hank continued, voice gentler. She came here almost every month for 3 years. Oversaw every board we replaced, picked every paint color. Drew. He chuckled, 3 different versions of that fishing pond, until we built the one she wanted exactly. I blinked. The fishing pond. He nodded. Because you told her once, drunk as a priest on Easter, that you always wished for a place to fish at sunset. Blue water, no noise, and a place to breathe, you said. She remembered. My breath hitched. Linda had been building my life behind my back. Not to hide it from me, but to give it to me when she couldn't stay. Hank watched my face like he'd seen this moment before. Her brothers came here several times, he added quietly. Always asking questions, always angry. Linda hated the way they treated her growing up. Said they stole money from their own mother after she passed. My jaw clenched. Linda never told me that. She didn't want to be like them, Hank said simply. Didn't want bitterness carving up what years she had left. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind stirring dust across the yard. Then Hank turned, motioning for me to follow. Come. There is something you need to see. We walked past the stables, fresh hay, stacked high horses looking out with curious eyes. Past the workshop Linda had designed for me. My chest tightened when I saw the tools hung neatly, everything in the style she knew I liked. Hank led me to a metal-sided storage barn behind the main house. I'd noticed it earlier, but thought it was just for equipment. He stopped by the far side, where a smaller door was set flush into the wall, easy to miss, unless you were looking for it. She told me to take you here when things started, Hank said. When they came after you. When the old wounds reopened. What's inside? I whispered. He looked at me, eyes steady. Protection, he said. And truth. My hand hovered over the handle. The metal felt warm from the sun. My pulse hammered in my ears. This door, this moment, felt like the line between the man I had been and the man Linda believed I could still be. Go on, Hank urged softly. She built this part for you. I took a breath deep enough to hurt, and I opened the door. Hank didn't say a word as he pulled the metal shelf away from the wall, quite practiced like he'd rehearsed this moment 100 times, waiting for me to show up. Behind it, tucked so neatly into the shadow I'd never have seen it, was a recessed steel panel. He slipped a crowbar under the edge, twisted once, and a faint click echoed through the barn. A square of floor lifted itself half an inch. My breath caught. A hidden trapdoor. In Linda's ranch. In Linda's secret life I'd never been allowed to touch. Hank lifted the heavy slab of metal, revealing a concrete staircase descending into darkness. After you, Bruce, he said softly. This is the part she didn't want anybody else to touch. Not the lawyers. Not the surveyors. Not her brothers. Only you. My fingers gripped the cold railing as I stepped down. Every footstep sounded heavier than it should have, like the air itself was holding its breath. The tunnel was cool, silent, lit by a motion sensor that buzzed faintly when it flicked on. The walls were poured concrete, smooth and thick, like something designed to survive a fire or a war. At the end waited a steel door. I pushed it open and walked straight into a world I never imagined Linda ever belonged to. A room 20 feet wide, walls lined with maps, graphs, geological cross-sections, financial ledgers, thick binders stacked like ammunition. A long desk with dual monitors. A whiteboard covered in a handwritten flowchart so detailed it made my head swim. And in the center of the back wall, a massive aerial map of Coyote Ridge Ranch, pinned with red markers so dense it looked like the land had bled. I whispered, "What the hell?" This, Hank said behind me, voice low with reverence, is Linda's war room. I took a few slow steps, the weight of the knowledge in this place pressing down on me like desert heat. "She built all this?" I asked. "Every bit," Hank answered. "After the first time they tried to cheat her." My throat tightened. "You mean her brothers?" He nodded. "They've been stealing since they were kids. First from their mother, then from insurance claims, then from their own employees. Linda told me they took almost 30 grand from her college fund when she was 18. Said it was a loan. Never paid a cent back." I gripped the edge of the desk until my knuckles went white. Linda, my Linda, who whispered apologies every time she spent too much on groceries, had walked around with wounds I never even knew existed. Hank continued. "When she found out about the lithium on this land, she knew they'd try to destroy whoever stood in their way." I turned toward him slowly. "Lithium. That's what all this is about." He pointed to a geological map, layers of sediment, scanned in bright neon colors. Coyote Ridge glowed red. Not the faint blush of a small deposit, but the solid core of a mother lode. "It's deeper than the rest of the region," Hank explained. "Different structure. The big companies missed it because they scanned shallow. Linda didn't hire the big companies. She hired a private surveyor who went 3 times deeper." My mind spun. All those years I thought she was working late, taking extra shifts, saving money for vacations we never went on. She was buying a war chest. "She borrowed against the house," I murmured, remembering something the lawyer hinted at. "Took out a second mortgage and paid it off," Hank said. "With the signing bonus from the green mining company she vetted. They're not ready to drill yet, but they signed a preliminary contract. She made sure everything goes to you, me. The man who'd spent a decade clawing his way out of a bottle. The man who missed anniversaries, forgot birthdays, yelled at the wrong people at the wrong times because I couldn't face myself in the mirror." I turned slowly, letting the war room swallow me whole. That's when I noticed the screen on the far wall, a big flat monitor wired to the laptop upstairs. A yellow sticky note was pressed to the frame. "For when he's ready." I felt the click before I even touched the keyboard. The screen lit up, and Linda appeared. Not the pale, trembling version I lost in a hospital bed. This was her the way she used to be, hair thick and auburn eyes bright, shoulders strong. God, my chest cramped at the sight. "Hi, Bruce," she said softly. "If you're watching this, then you've been forced to see the part of me I never wanted you to know." Her voice cracked just once. "I didn't want to turn you into a soldier. I didn't want you drowning in the same family poison I grew up with. But life doesn't always wait for us to be ready." She swallowed, trying to steady herself. "I know you're hurting, and I know what you're thinking. Why didn't she tell me she was sick? Why didn't she trust me with the truth?" I closed my eyes. Because God help me, that's exactly what I'd been thinking every hour since she died. Linda continued, voice warm, but waited. "You had your own demons to fight, Bruce. And you were fighting them. Day after day, year after year. You pulled yourself out of a darkness most people never escape. I didn't want to put more weight on your shoulders. I wanted to see you live again." A tear broke loose down my cheek. I didn't hide the ranch to keep you out, she whispered. I hid it because this place wasn't ready for you yet. It was broken, haunted. It looked like everything that destroyed my childhood. I wanted you to see it only when it was beautiful, when it could be a home, not a wound. She paused, leaning closer to the camera. And Bruce, you told me once in one of your lowest moments that you didn't know if you had anything left to give to the world. She smiled, small, sad, but proud. You were wrong. Her eyes hardened, not cold but determined. You have one last chance to build something that matters. For yourself. For Emily. For us. So listen carefully. My brothers will come for the ranch. They will lie. They will twist the law. They will try to drag you through the mud of my past. And if they can't break you, she exhaled, eyes shadowed. They will try to use Emily. They know she's your soft spot. They know you'd do anything for her. My whole body froze. Emily. Our daughter. The girl I still wasn't sure I deserved forgiveness from. On the desk beneath the screen, a thick folder sat labeled in Linda's handwriting. If they come for Emily, full plan. My heart thudded like a punch. Linda knew. She knew exactly how far her brothers would go. I stared at the folder, my hand hovering, but not touching it. Hank stepped beside me, voice a low rumble. She trusted you, Bruce, more than she trusted herself. She said you'd always protect your daughter, even if you didn't believe you could. I looked at Linda's paused face on the screen. I looked at the maps, the evidence, the plinths. And then very slowly, I picked up the folder. The paper felt heavier than any weight I'd ever carried. But for the first time since her funeral, I felt something like purpose move in me. Like a sleeping giant waking up. I climbed out of that war room with legs that didn't feel like they belonged to me. My hands were shaking not from fear, but from something older, heavier. The feeling a man gets when he realizes he's been living in the shallow end of his own life, and suddenly, someone shows him the ocean beneath it. Outside, the evening sun over Coyote Ridge burned red across the desert, and for the first time since Linda died, I felt the sky pressing down on me, like it wanted an answer. I pulled out my phone. Emily. I stared at her name for a full minute before pressing call. The ringing felt endless. Then click. Dad. Her voice was cautious. Clip that tone kids use when they've built too many walls to take any more hits. I managed. I need to talk to you. There's something I can't right now, she cut in. I'm packing. My chest tightened. Packing? For what? A business trip, she said, but her voice wavered. Actually, not business. I got a call from Uncle Ray and Uncle Charles. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling down an elevator shaft. What did they tell you? That Mom left a property in New Mexico? That you didn't tell me? That you're complicating things legally? A bitter exhale. They said the ranch could be worth 30, maybe 40 million, with the lithium. They want me in Albuquerque tomorrow morning to discuss the future of the family. Their words. God damn it. Listen to me, no. Dad, you listen. Her voice broke like glass under too much weight. My whole childhood you hid things. Bills, evictions, drunk driving, court dates, then rehab, then relapses. You expect me to believe you're not hiding something now? The desert blurred around me. I know I failed you, I said quietly. But your uncles, they're blood, she snapped. Your mother was blood. I shot back before I could stop myself. Linda never trusted them. There are things you don't know exactly. Dad, she cut in. I don't know anything, because you never tell me the truth until everything is on fire. Silence. A long, cold one. I swallowed. Can we meet? Just for 20 minutes. There's something your mother left for you. More silence. Then a sigh, tired, wounded. There's a diner off Highway 14, Red Canyon Diner. 2 hours from you, I think. I'll stop on my way. That's it. Thank you, I whispered. But she had already hung up. The Red Canyon Diner was the kind of place that smelled like burnt coffee and old country songs. Chrome stools, cracked red booths, a neon sign that flickered like it was arguing with the night. I picked a booth in the back, the one where fathers usually sit when they're hoping their daughters don't change their minds before walking in. I laid the iPad on the table. Linda's private message for Emily. The one she recorded with swollen eyes but steady voice. The one she'd never get to deliver herself. 15 minutes passed. Then Vente. Then headlights. Swept the parking lot. Emily stepped inside her coat, half-zipped hair, still the same copper shade as Linda's. She looked exhausted, beautiful, angry, guarded. She didn't hug me, didn't sit right away. Just stood at the edge of the booth, like she needed a second to decide whether being here was a mistake. Hi, she said. Hi, sweetheart. She flinched at the word. I gestured to the booth. After a long pause, she sat keeping her purse between us, like a shield. Emily, I started, I know what your uncles told you, but I need you to hear something from your mom. In her words, not mine. She frowned. My uncles said you'd try to spin something. That mom left things unclear because she wasn't thinking straight at the end. I felt fire run through me, low and hollow. Your mother thought straighter sick than they ever did healthy. I pushed the iPad forward. She recorded this for you. Just watch. Please. Emily's jaw tightened. If this is some guilt trip, it's not. I whispered. It's her. That stopped her. She hesitated, then tapped play. And Linda filled the booth. Not dying Linda. Not weak Linda. This was the Linda Emily remembered, warm, steady, a quiet strength behind her eyes. Hi, Em. She began, voice trembling. If you're watching this, it means your dad and I didn't get the chance to tell you everything ourselves. Emily froze. Linda continued. I know you're angry with him, and I don't blame you. He hurt you in ways a father should never hurt a child. But I was there, Em. I saw him fight his way back, inch by inch, breath by breath. He didn't just quit drinking. He rebuilt himself. Emily's breath hitched. Your uncles will tell you he's weak, or greedy, or dangerous. But they're lying because they need you to doubt him. They need you to doubt yourself. They've been taking from people since they were your age. From me. From our mother. From anyone weaker or kinder than them. I saw Emily's eyes soften before she looked away. Linda leaned closer in the video, voice steadier. The ranch is real. The lithium is real. And so is the danger. They will lose you if they can't control Bruce. They think you're the easier target, the softer heart. But sweetheart, soft doesn't mean weak. A tear slid down Emily's cheek. She wiped it fast, pretending she wasn't crying. And the ranch, it's not for profit. Or seizure. It's a chance for your dad to live a life he spent decades thinking he didn't deserve. He's not protecting the land. He's protecting a second chance. For him. For you. For us. The video ended on Linda whispering, please, trust the good in him. I did. And I was never wrong. Emily stared at the black screen long after it went dark. I didn't speak. Didn't move. Finally she looked at me, eyes red, hands shaking. Why didn't she tell me she was sick? She whispered. Because she didn't want you to spend a year mourning while she was still breathing, I said quietly. She wanted you to remember her whole. That broke her. She stood suddenly, wiping her face with her sleeve. I need time, she said, voice cracking. I don't know what to believe right now. But she shook her head and backed away. I'll call you, she said, though she didn't sound sure. She pushed out the diner door and disappeared into the parking lot, her taillights bleeding red into the night as she drove away. I sat there long after she was gone. The waitress came by with more coffee, took one look at my face, and left without saying a word. And I thought, God, tell me I didn't just lose my daughter again. 3 days of silence can stretch a man, thin enough to break, or thin enough to see the world clearly for the first time. I spent those days walking the edges of Coyote Ridge buttes, crunching over red dust, Linda's voice replaying in my head, like an echo that refused to fade. Emily called the second night. She'd watched the remaining videos, her mother explaining the scars of her childhood, the years of manipulation, the betrayal that shaped her life, long before I ever entered it. By the third morning, Emily was standing in the driveway with her suitcase, no hesitation in her eyes this time. Mom didn't build this place for them, she said. She built it for us. It wasn't forgiveness, not fully. But it was a beginning. And for me, God, that was enough. The email came an hour later. A family meeting at Coyote Ridge. Proposed by the Moore brothers' lawyers, complete with a glossy pre-written plan to sell the ranch and all mineral rights to Titan Ridge Resources, one of the biggest mining conglomerates in the Southwest. They called it a chance to mend fences and secure generational wealth. I called it what it was, an ambush dressed up in Sunday clothes. But Linda had prepared for this. She'd known they'd try something just like it. I opened the folder she'd labeled, "If They Force a Sale," and followed the instructions line by line. First, call a Santa Fe oil and mineral attorney named Marisol Vega, someone Linda trusted. Second, call Desert Green Minerals, the environmentally responsible company Linda had already begun negotiations with. Third, call Hank to prepare the dining room exactly the way Linda once described to him. A long oak table, 8 chairs, a projector, my war room maps. Fourth, call Emily. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded. "They used me long enough. I'm done being quiet." At 10 a.m., dust clouds rose on the horizon. 2 vehicles, black SUV Raymond Charles and their lawyer, silver Suburban Titan Ridge's CEO, a man named Kessler, who dressed like he owned the whole damn desert. Emily and I waited on the porch, not hiding, not apologizing. Kessler was the first up the steps, offering a firm handshake, dripping with the confidence of a man used to getting exactly what he wants. "Mr. Mitchell, thank you for hosting. Your brothers-in-law tell us you're ready to discuss the sale." "Not brothers," I corrected calmly. "And no, we're here to discuss the truth." Before they could respond, the crunch of tires announced 2 more arrivals. Marisol Vega in a charcoal suit, sharp enough to cut glass. And behind her, the 2 reps from Desert Green, one geologist, one director of sustainability. Raymond's face paled. Charles muttered something that sounded like a curse. Emily crossed her arms. "You invited guests. So did we." Inside, the dining room had been transformed into something halfway between a courtroom and a battlefield. Maps projected on the wall, binders stacked neatly, evidence ready, just like Linda planned. Everyone took their seats. I didn't sit. I stood at the head of the table, palms braced on the oak, the way Linda used to when she was fed up with the world. "Let's begin," I said. The Moore brothers launched first. Smooth, rehearsed lines, false concern. Claims about family rights, shared heritage, keeping things simple. Then their lawyer slid forward a thick contract, their proposal to sell the ranch and all lithium rights to Titan Ridge for a fixed premium rate split among all genetic heirs. He looked at Emily as he said it, trying to hook her, trying to turn her. She didn't blink. When they finished, Kessler chimed in with a corporate smile. "Mr. Mitchell, this is a once-in-a-lifetime payout. Titan Ridge has the equipment to mine deep lithium seams responsibly." I cut him off. Do you know how deep the lithium is? He frowned. We've conducted preliminary scans. No, you haven't, I said. You scanned shallow, just like everyone else. I clicked the remote. The war room geological map filled the screen. The deep seam glowed like a burning vein. Desert Green's geologist leaned forward. My God, this is the largest uninterrupted deposit in central New Mexico. Raymond slammed his hand on the table. That map is stolen data. You had no right. Oh, I didn't create it, I replied. Linda did. 3 years ago. Independently. Privately. Legally. Their lawyer stiffened. I clicked again. Linda appeared on the screen video from the war room, explaining the geological data in crisp detail. Naming the survey company. Showing timestamps. Showing ownership. And then the room shifted. Kessler sat back. The brothers leaned in. Everyone could feel the ground moving under them. Marisol Vega spoke next, her voice smooth, lethal. Gentlemen, what you presented as the entire mineral valuation excluded the most valuable portion of the land. You misrepresented the asset. If you had succeeded in pressuring Mitchell into signing this contract, it would constitute fraud. That's absurd, Charles barked. Oh, is it? I asked, pulling out another folder. The one Linda marked for. When they lie. I tossed it onto the table. Photos, bank records, signed forms, insurance fraud reports, tax evasion notes, old deposits into hidden accounts. Documentation Linda had spent years building. Raymond's face drained of color. Kessler lifted one page and exhaled sharply. Is this real enough to send to the IRS and the New Mexico Attorney General by midnight? I said. Unless this ends today. Charles leaned forward, face twisted. This is extortion. No, I replied. This is protection. Linda protected herself the only way she could from the two of you. Emily spoke for the first time, and her voice shook the room. You tried to turn me against my father. You tried to twist Mom's death into profit. And you think you have the right to talk about family. Raymond looked at her, like she'd betrayed him. But she didn't look away. Marisol slid forward a new document. We propose a settlement. You drop all claims. You acknowledge Bruce Mitchell as sole legal owner. You cease any contact intended to influence Emily emotionally or financially. And you sign a non-interference agreement, effective immediately. Raymond stared at it, jaw clenched, rage boiling. You think you can force us? Kessler stood abruptly. Titan Ridge won't be participating further, he announced. Your family dynamic is unstable, and the asset evaluation is incomplete. This is not a safe investment. He walked out. Just like that. The brothers were alone, cornered, and they knew it. 20 minutes later, they signed. Not gracefully, not quietly, but they signed. When the door closed behind them, the whole ranch seemed to exhale. Desert Green's representative turned to me. Arstiti, Mitchell, if you ever want a partner who honors the land, we'd be proud to work with you. I nodded, but didn't shake her hand. Not yet. Because Linda had warned me, Bruce, don't let money choose your future for you. You spent half your life chained to something stronger than you. Never let anything own you again. That night, after everyone left, Emily and I stood under a sky so open it hurt to look at. She nudged my elbow. You did good today, Dad. I swallowed hard. So did you. But inside me, something heavier settled. A realization winning the battle didn't mean I understood the war. And Linda. God help me. Linda had built more than a defense. She'd built a doorway into a future I still didn't know if I was brave enough to walk into. They tell you a 40 can't change after 60. I used to believe that. Hell, I lived like it was true, coasting, shrinking, making myself smaller each year, as if age were something happening to me, not something I had a choice in. But Coyote Ridge, it didn't let me stay small. The land had a way of pulling the truth out of me, the same way it pulled light out of every sunrise. No hiding, no excuses. Just whatever kind of man you decide to be today. The days began to settle into a rhythm I didn't expect to love. Up before dawn. Stretch the back that never fully healed from my years in construction. Check the fence. Feed the horses 2 mares and a gelding, Linda named Thunder, because he used to stomp when he was impatient. I learned how to clean hooves, how to patch a corral gate, how to fix a trough heater when it froze one night, and I panicked like a new parent. Hank watched me with that slow grin of his, the one that said, "Told you this land doesn't tolerate slackers, viejo." I didn't mind. It felt good to work again. Good to sweat again. Good to feel my hands remember who they were before they trembled around a bottle. Most afternoons after chores, I met Marisol Vega on a video call, or at the long dining table, where we fought the brothers. We sifted through clauses, impact allowances, mineral rights, structures, royalty distributions. Desert Green's lawyers came out twice a month, walking me through environmental guarantees and slow extraction plans that wouldn't tear the land open, like the big corporations do. I kept Linda's words in my mind. Don't let money own you again, Bruce. The agreements weren't about wealth. They were about dignity, sustainability, leaving something clean behind. And for the first time in decades, I felt like I was building instead of repairing. Then something unexpected happened. Emily started coming back. Not just calls, not just tentative texts. She showed up with her son, little Caleb, a curious 6-year-old who looked at everything like the world had magic tucked in its pockets. The first weekend they visited, Caleb ran toward Thunder, yelling, "Horsey, I nearly had a heart attack." But Hank caught the reins and laughed so loud the whole stable echoed. "Relax, abuelo," he teased me. "He's brave, not stupid." Emily snorted. "He gets that from Mom." For a moment, we all froze, the name landing between us, like something fragile and holy. Then Emily said quietly, "Let's show him the baby saddle." And the spell broke. Those weekends became our new ritual. Caleb learned to brush Thunder's coat. Emily sat on the porch drinking iced tea, her eyes softer than they'd been since she was 17. Sometimes she'd help me in the garage, our community garage, as the locals had started calling it. Veterans came by with old Fords in need of love. Teenagers wandered in, wanting to learn welding. Once a single mom showed up, needing brakes fixed before the next snow, and Hank had the replacement pads on before she could finish explaining her problem. People dropped off pies, homegrown tomatoes, stories, loneliness they didn't know where else to put. And every time I unlocked that garage, I felt Linda standing beside me. Not like a ghost, more like a memory choosing to stay alive. She'd wanted a place where no one gets left behind. I didn't know if I was doing her justice, but I was trying. But something else started happening too. The videos. At first they were warm, Linda showing me how she'd picked the paint colors for the bedroom, telling stories about the roof repairs, laughing about how Hank once fell in the pond. Then around day 289 her tone shifted. Just a little. Not enough to alarm anyone outside my skin, but enough that the hairs on my arms lifted. She talked about her brothers, how they never stopped scheming, how they always had one more trick waiting, how desperation made them reckless. The thing about men like them, she said, her voice tight, is that losing isn't an ending, it's an insult. And they don't move on. From insults, I felt the room grow colder. Day 294, she mentioned a rumor about a third party her brothers once partnered with. Someone she never named. Someone she said she hoped never resurfaced. Day 300, Bruce, I need you to stay alert. Just because the court agrees with you doesn't mean they'll stop. They will come from a direction you won't expect. Day 307, please be careful with Emily. She's strong, but they know how to manipulate her heart. I paused the video halfway through because my hands started shaking. The ranch was quiet. The desert was calm. Emily was smiling again. Caleb was laughing with Hank. Life had finally softened. But Linda had never been wrong. She'd predicted every step of their first attack. She'd built an entire war room expecting the worst, and now months later, she was warning me of something else. Something heavier, closer, darker. I hit play again. Day 311. If they ever feel cornered, they will reach for something unforgivable. Something that forces you to choose between the ranch and the people you love. Bruce, please promise me you won't let them use your past as a weapon against you. I swallowed hard. My past, my drinking, my mistakes, my daughter. I had spent years trying to bury those parts of me. But men like Raymond and Charles, they dig. I stopped the video at day 312. Then I shut the laptop. The sun was setting outside the window, desert sky bleeding into soft orange and gold. The kind of sky Linda used to call God, washing his brushes. Beautiful, peaceful, still. But there was something beneath that stillness. A tension, a hum, a storm crouching somewhere beyond the ridge waiting for the right moment to unfold itself. I stood on the porch long after dark, listening to the wind drag itself across the sand. And for the first time in months, I felt that old ache, fear not for myself, but for the life we were just beginning to rebuild. Linda, what did you see coming? The desert didn't answer. It just breathed quietly in the dark, like it knew something I didn't. All at Coyote Ridge comes quiet. It doesn't shout the way Ohio autumn does, with red leaves and football crowds and cold wind scraping down your collar. No, here it creeps in slowly. A sharper edge in the air. A softer gold on the grass. A calm so deep it feels borrowed. I was in the garage that afternoon, helping a young veteran named Miles weld the frame of an old Chevy pickup. Miles shook a little when he worked PTSD, he told me, but sparks steadied him. He said the bright light gave his hands something to answer to. Hold it steady, I reminded him, gently guiding his grip. Welding isn't about force, it's about rhythm. I'm trying, he muttered, jaw clenched with that stubborn pride only young men and old soldiers carry. I smiled. You're doing fine. That's when my phone buzzed. Emily. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped outside so Miles wouldn't hear the shake in my voice. Hey, Dad. Her tone sliced through me, tight, strained, too calm to be calm. Something's happened. What is it? A visitor. A pause. Then, it's Uncle Raymond. My spine went ice cold. He's what? In Chicago, I asked. Yes. He showed up at my building with a doctor and a lawyer, I think. They said they wanted to make peace. They said it was urgent, that it was about family. She took a shuddering breath. Dad, they said he's dying. The wind stilled. Even the desert seemed to hold its breath. What else? I asked quietly. He said he needs help. From me. She hesitated. He said I might be the only match. Match. The word rolled through me like a stone falling down a well. For what I whispered, though, I already knew. He has some kind of blood cancer. Aggressive. They want to test my HDLA markers. The doctor said it's just a blood draw at first. That I could save his life. Save his life. Family duty. Blood is blood. The oldest chains in the world. I closed my eyes, every warning from Linda's videos now pumping through my veins like a second heartbeat. Emily, I said softly but firmly, don't agree to anything. Not one test. Not a signature. Nothing. Not until we talk in person. I didn't, she said. I told them I needed time. But Dad, he looked sick. Really sick. The part of me that was still human winced. The part of me that had once sat on the floor of a rehab center, clutching my own guilt like a dying animal. That part understood sickness, understood fear, understood regret. But the part of me Linda trained now stood taller. "I'm coming," I said. "If he wants to talk, he can do it here, on our ground." Raymond arrived at Coyote Ridge 2 days later, not in a loud SUV, not in a suit, not radiating arrogance like a man who believed the world owed him something. He came in a modest sedan, driven by the same doctor Emily had described. He stepped out slowly, thinner than I had ever seen him, cheeks sunken, eyes ringed with a grayness that looked older than sickness, like time had finally caught up. He held a folder in his trembling hands. Hank, standing beside me, muttered under his breath, "No te fíes. Don't trust him." I didn't. But I didn't hate him either. Age does something strange to a man. It softens the heart even when the mind stays sharp. "Bruce," Raymond said as he approached. His voice cracked on the second syllable. "Thank you for seeing me." I nodded, but didn't extend a hand. He noticed. Didn't blame me. Inside the house, he sat gingerly at the edge of Linda's old dining chair, like he was afraid the wood might reject him. He placed the folder on the table and slid it toward me. "My medical records," he said. "You're welcome to read them." I didn't touch it. He sighed, deep defeated. "I don't expect forgiveness. God knows I don't deserve it. I treated Linda terribly." His voice grew small. "And I treated you worse." Hank stood in the corner, arms crossed, jaw tight. Emily sat against the wall, silent, watching her uncle like a hawk, unsure if the creature before her was prey or predator. The doctor cleared his throat. "Mr. Mitchell, your brother-in-law has acute myeloid leukemia with a rare mutation. His odds of survival without a stem cell transplant are—" He hesitated. "Extremely low." Raymond spoke again, eyes fixed on Emily. "I know I've hurt you, manipulated you, used you. I know that. But I don't want to die with this on my conscience." His voice broke. "I want to try to make something right before I go." He looked at me now, not as an adversary, not as Linda's widower, but as a man. "You turned your life around," he whispered. "I never did. Not really. I want one chance, just one, to leave the world clean." The sincerity in his voice struck something old inside me, the man who had once begged for mercy from the people he hurt. But sincerity wasn't the same as truth, and guilt wasn't the same as innocence. The doctor stepped in gently. "Emily's markers are uncommon. Family members often share them. She may be his only viable match." "That's not true," I said quietly. The lawyer, who'd been silent until now, jumped in. "Mr. Mitchell, we've done extensive research. According to all available family genealogical—" I raised my hand. "Stop." The room held still. I leaned forward. "Raymond," I said, voice low, unwavering. "I'm going to ask you one question. And I want the truth, not the rehearsed version, not the legal version. The real one." He swallowed, nodded weakly. "Have you exhausted every other family member?" I asked. "Everyone with shared blood, everyone who might match? Or did you come straight to my daughter because she was the easiest target?" His eyes faltered, just for a second. But it was enough. The lawyer jumped in. "Too fast. Mr. Mitchell, there are no other viable relatives with compatible—" "Let him answer," I said sharply. The room waited. Raymond stared at the table, at his own shaking hands. He swallowed. "I didn't check everyone." Emily inhaled sharply. Hank cursed under his breath. The doctor closed his eyes briefly, realizing the line he'd been fed wasn't clean. I sat back slowly, every piece of Linda's warning clicking into place, like the last tumblers of a lock. There it was. The thing she'd feared, the final card. Not violence, not lawsuits, not money. Guilt. Weaponized. Sharpened. Aimed at my daughter's heart. Family, the deadliest kind of leverage. Raymond looked up, tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. Not weaponized, not fake, but still dangerous. "Bruce," he whispered, "please, I'm begging you. And God help me." A part of me wanted to reach across the table and put a hand on his shoulder. But another part, the part Linda strengthened with her final breath, stood tall and unshaken. Because mercy was one thing, manipulation was another. And I was too old, too sure, too aware to confuse the two again. I don't know the full truth about what happened afterward. Not all of it. Not the conversations behind closed motel doors in Arizona, or the long nights when Raymond and Marcus knocked on strangers' doors and said the one sentence no child ever expects to hear: "We share the same father." All I know is this: one morning, weeks after that meeting at the ranch, I woke up to an email from Raymond. Just one line: "Thank you for making us look in a damn mirror." Nothing about surgery. Nothing about donors. Nothing about who said yes or no. And I didn't ask. Because for the first time in their lives, the Moore brothers handled something without lying, stealing, or dragging someone else through the mud. It was theirs to carry. And Emily, she never had to give blood, bone marrow, guilt, or tears. Linda's plan worked. Not perfectly, not neatly, but enough. Enough to break the family curse without breaking our daughter. Desert Green Minerals sent a team back out to the ranch that spring, a team that looked more like conservation biologists than miners. Faded jeans, dusty hiking boots, sunburnt necks. People who introduced themselves with first names instead of job titles. They walked the land slow. They touched the dirt with their hands. They talked to the tribal elders in the valley before they talked contracts with me. They treated Coyote Ridge like it was alive. And because of Linda, because she did her homework, because she fought like hell even when none of us knew, Desert Green agreed to a deal more fair than anything I'd thought possible. Extraction capped at a rate the land can recover from. Full environmental monitoring paid by the company. Restoration fund established for post-mining years. A scholarship program for Native kids within a 60-mile radius. And a clause that the ranch building's land-water heritage remains untouched. They shook my hand like I was a partner. Not a desperate widower. Not a pawn. A partner. Linda would have smiled, that quiet, proud, knowing smile. The one that always meant she'd planned further ahead than I had. People think grief makes you still, like you freeze in time. For me, it was the opposite. I started moving, fixing fence posts, feeding horses, cleaning the old metal shop, repainting the front pitch where Linda probably sat, and imagined all this. My back hated it. My knees filed multiple complaints. But my heart hadn't felt this awake in decades. We opened the machine shop to veterans and teenagers, from town folks who needed a place to put their hands to use so their minds wouldn't get lost. Some worked on old trucks. Some built sculptures. Some just stood around drinking cheap coffee and remembering they weren't alone. Hank ran the barn like a general with a soft voice. Emily drove down from Chicago twice a month with her boy Jacob. Kid's 6 years old and thinks horses are basically giant dogs with better manners. He calls this place Grandma Linda's ranch, even though he never met her. But he meets her every time he steps into the art studio she built for me. Her handwriting is taped on drawers. Her notes are on the walls. Her voice is in every video we still watch together. Jacob sitting on my lap asking, "Did she make this ranch just for you, Grandpa?" And I always say, "She made it for all of us, buddy." Even the parts we didn't know we'd need yet. When you have 365 videos from the woman you loved, there's a strange ache that builds up inside you as you get closer to the end. Every morning, another day, gone. Another message gone. Another piece of her voice, her eyes, her breath checked off a list you never wanted to make. I stretched them out as long as I could, missed days on purpose, watched some twice, skipped others because I wasn't ready for the truth inside them. But eventually, I reached it. Day 365, the final video. I didn't open it right away. Hell, I let it sit on that laptop for a week, like some kind of unexploded shell. One evening, right before sunset, I took the laptop out to the front porch, the same porch Linda once described as a place for endings that don't really end. I sat down. The desert was quiet, except for the wind brushing the sagebrush. And with hands that felt older than my bones, I pressed play. Linda appeared. Not sick, not pale, not dying, just Linda. The way I loved her best. "Hi, Bruce," she said softly. "I guess we made it, huh?" I laughed even as my throat closed. Damn woman always knew how to hit my heart sideways. She talked for a long time in that video. About the ranch. About the people she hoped would come here. About Emily and Jacob. About Hank. About the way she knew I'd rebuild myself once grief forced me to scrape down to the studs. Then at the end, she leaned a little closer. Eyes soft, voice gentle. "I won't say goodbye. I don't believe in those. So, I'll say what I always said." She smiled that small, stubborn Linda smile. "See you tomorrow, Bruce." The screen went dark. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't cry. I just breathed, slow, deep, alive. I used to think turning 60 meant wrapping up, shutting down us all, and letting the younger folks take it from here. But standing on that porch, watching the sky bleed gold over the ridge, hearing Jacob chase Hank's dog around the barn, I realized something. I'm not at the end. I'm at the beginning. A beginning Linda built with her last strength. A beginning Emily walked back into. A beginning I never expected to earn. And I want to honor it. Not by becoming rich. Not by beating her brothers. Not by living some victory lap. But by choosing who I am now. At 60 damn years old. Behind me, bolted into the wall of the porch, is the piece I've been working on for months. Welded steel. Desert rust. Shadows that change shape each sunset. 3 riders on the ridge. One in the front. One following closer. One a little behind, smaller, but growing into the trail. Past, present, future. Linda May for Emily. Or maybe Linda, Emily, Jacob. Art doesn't have rules. It only holds the truth you didn't know you were telling. I ran my fingers across the cool metal and looked back at the camera, the one you're watching this on now. And I said in the voice of a man who's lost enough to know what he still has, if you're still breathing, if you still get one more sunrise, then nobody gets to count you out of the damn game. I leaned back, listening to the wind roll across Coyote Ridge. Linda left me land and money. Sure. But what she really left me was the right to choose who I want to be in the years I've got left. Then I reached for the laptop one last time, opened Linda's final video, listened to her say, "See you tomorrow, Bruce." And I turned back to the camera, the real one, the one capturing this moment right now, and I said, tomorrow won't have a video from her anymore. But I'm still here. Question is, what are you going to do with your tomorrow? Then I let the screen fade to black.